Hi there, everybody, and welcome back to Just Ask Dr. Macy and Guests. I'm your host. I'm Dr. Macy Smith, the social gerontologist providing education, training, and caregiver coaching to help you and your families reach the next best level of care. So we're still in March. We're still celebrating social workers. It is Social Work Month, but we are closing out with a treat. You know, this month on my platform, I am celebrating and highlighting Black social workers who rock. Well, our next guest is not going to disappoint. He is actually a gem in the social work industry. Yeah, and I said him. We don't have a lot of hymns in the social work field, but he is making it work. We have Earl Martin coming up to the platform. He is a licensed clinical social worker. He is the creator and founder of Innate Virtue Counseling and 26 Affirmation for Boys of Color card deck. I told you my social workers are doing some innovative, creative things. Hey there, Earl, come on up.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. I'm glad we were able to connect today and get this interview done. You know, I have been watching you grow since you were like in middle school, and you just boom, just came on the scene. Before we get to where you are now, I want to know, why did you choose the field of social work, or did the field of social work choose you, as one of my other guests stated?
So honestly, it chose me because in undergrad, my degree, my BA is in psychology. I got my social work in my master's program, and I found it because during my senior year, I didn't really have a lot. I was pretty much done with credits, and I was like, oh, I need like a nice class. Let me just try something I never did. And it was a macro social work class, and I was exposed to Dr. Sellers. She sat down with me, and I just was in her class, and the whole semester I was like, I really am enjoying this. And she said, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a therapist, and I don't know which route to go. And it was her, and then one of my psychology professors was like, you should go through the route of social work to get your license. It's maybe like the things you can do with a social work degree is not a limiting degree. And they were like, you know, with certain degrees, you can only do so much. But with this degree, you don't want to do therapy, you can go in this way, you can go in this direction, you can create and be and fill in many spaces as you want. And so it found me in that way. And once I took that class, I fell in love with the class. I fell in love with her teaching about the intersectionalities, and just it was over from there.
It was over from there. Now, where did you get your undergrad?
Winthrop University.
Winthrop University. And your master's?
Winthrop. I'm a two-time alum from Winthrop.
Two-time alum. Now, Winthrop's, they recently got their, what is it, their MSW?
They started with MSW, I believe, in 2007.
Okay, and what about the BSW? Because I know they just had one at one point in time, and then they brought on the other.
The MSW was the last one that came, and then about 4, maybe 3 years ago now, they started the online MSW program.
Gotcha. Yeah, we even though that's not an HBCU, that is a fellow state university, and we love ourselves some Winthrop. They put out great social workers and great professionals. So I like that your professor told you that the field of social work is limitless. A lot of people don't know, Earl, that social work is an actual trained profession. You know, simply because people say that they're a social worker doesn't necessarily mean that they're a trained social worker. So when you decided to get your MSW, did you know that you wanted to open your own practice?
So it's interesting. I didn't start thinking about owning my own practice until I met my good friend / mentor, Courtney, who I have a podcast with. I always was like, I'm going to do therapy. I want to work at a university and work with these young adults. I might work at somebody else's private practice. I don't want to do that. And then as I started working, I was like, I don't want to work for nobody. I want to set my own rules. I want to do this my way. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, are you going to grow your private practice to where you have people under you? And I was like, I actually prefer just the solo practice.
Do your thing.
I just worry about me, create my ideas as I want to, release. So it was there, but I had to nourish it. And then the dream became full of, no, I want my full practice. And so, yeah.
So tell us how that became about, because you do have your own practice, Innate, right?
Yeah,
Innate Virtue Counseling. Tell us about how you evolved into your own profession and why the name. Because, you know, when you are working for other people, you are doing your thing. You know, that's you're doing counseling and therapy the way you feel best and the way you're skilled. You know, one of our tenets and one of our values and competencies is to basically stay in your lane, do what you do and do what you do best. But so how did that come to fruition and why the name?
Yeah, so I have worked, but prior to my practice, and I do my private practice part-time, but during the day I provide domestic violence counseling to survivors of domestic violence. And so I loved those roles, but I always recognize that my passion and my target group are Black members of the LGBTQ plus community, and I say Black and brown. And so while I would have that, sometimes I would feel like I'm enjoying this passion, but I have another purpose. And because that purpose wasn't being fulfilled, I've always been taught, if you're not getting it, you can go create it. And so
That's right.
I was just watching, again, I think in social work, you're very well connected. And it's about like who you know and people you know. And so watching my people around me, they're like, you know, you can have your own practice. And not realizing, like in my mind, I always thought, oh, practice is you got to have all these people in, you got to have this office. And thankfully, you know, prior to COVID and COVID coming, like telehealth became such a big,
Oh yeah, it
using the
did.
technology.
Absolutely, it did.
And so you got to be really creative with your business. And so I started my practice right before COVID hit, and I was office renting from a friend using the space. But the name Innate Virtue, it came to me because I truly feel like our full healthy selves are innately within. We just have to do a lot of polishing and healing to get to it and tap into it. And so the name came from the belief of that your true self lies innately in you. A lot of times people are like, I want to grow into, I'm trying to figure out who I am. And I'm like, it's in there. We just got to polish it, you know? And one thing I say, healing is not always fun. It's going to be annoying. It's going to require a lot of work, but it's worth it to tap into who you are.
Earl, it's like peeling an onion, right?
Okay, and you got to get to it.
You got to get to the core, and you're going to cry a little bit getting to it. You're going to wipe, you're going to smell a little bit. But when you get to it and when it's completed, then you've accomplished something. You know, everybody that I've interviewed so far and with my own journey, and I think most social workers have this similar desire or have this similar experience when they come into social work. Sometimes it's by accident because like you said, you were finished with your credits and then professor suggested the macro social work class and you fell in love, right? So they either fall into it by accident or either they know that that's what they want to do, but not really knowing what area they want to specialize in. Almost every social worker I've interviewed and have as colleagues, it was always something that was unfulfilled in terms of helping someone else or helping a group of people, usually marginalized communities. You have a job, right? That's making money and you can pay your bills. But if something is not fulfilled and you feel a void, you, like you said, Earl, you're going to go out there and get it. You're going to go out there and create it. So many social workers, I know I have 5 jobs, right? Five, right? But if I had to choose to let one of them go, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like the Lord would have to send a divine message to me because we are nurturing people and we want to fulfill these things, these tenets, these values for everybody. It's not always possible, but that's why we have more than one job, because we do what we got to do to be able to do what we want to do, right?
Yes.
So, Earl, because you goes out there and you gets it, honey. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I love to see you move. You know, that's just what you do. So in your private practice, how long have you been in practice? You said right before the pandemic?
It is officially, so prior to, completing all the paperwork, I would do like this contract under me. And then I said, let me go ahead and make the full professional license liability, LPLLC. And so I created that. Application process, it take a little time, but it was awarded to me in March 2020. So I actually celebrate 2 years this week.
Yay. Now you have an LCSW, that's licensed clinical social worker. We had talked a little bit offline. You're in North Carolina, I'm in South Carolina, but we do share, we're a bordering state. And in South Carolina, we have, in order to be to do private practice, we have to either be it's a LISW, CP, which is clinical practice, or LISW AP. Is that the same? LCSW, is that the same as LISW in South Carolina?
And so South Carolina, North Carolina, and a lot of states are moving to it, so you can kind of get, it's pretty much kind of like reciprocity. So like I have a friend like Courtney again, she has her LCSW here. And because she has her LCSW here, she obtained it first because it's South Carolina requires you to take another class, which a lot of people, if you're on that border, they'll tell you. It's a little secret, but they'll tell you to go through North Carolina and become fully licensed, and then just apply and request reciprocity in South Carolina.
In South Carolina, so South Carolina, you can do reciprocity in South Carolina. Is it vice versa? Like if you get your license here in South Carolina, so it is reciprocity both ways when it comes to licensure. That's good to know because we do share, the same professionals, so that's good to know. Now, have you tapped into any type of teletherapy or telehealth?
Oh yes. So when COVID hit, because COVID was real and it still is,
even though they say endemic, we in it still.
I made my private practice fully virtual because I was seeing clients, and then I switched to a full telehealth platform. And I have the opportunity, and I do rent an office from a friend, but a lot of my clients prefer the virtual because it's quicker. They can access it like as soon as they get off work versus let me rush across town on traffic. So I'm hybrid right now, but most of my clients are still virtual.
That's cool. And a lot of people, they're more comfortable and welcoming of the whole technology as it relates to health and things of that nature, and also reimbursement. So the third party payers are not I don't think they're as reticent as they were before to fund, and to pay for therapy. So we definitely, I'm happy that it's happening because you can actually reach more people. Now, in your private practice, are your therapy is centered around the LGBTQIA plus community? Is that the population, African American, that you actually focus on in your practice? That's cool.
Yeah. So, and it's really marginalized groups. But being a part of that community, I do specialize in that, in connecting, because my friends was when I first opened my practice, I said I might not get no clients. They said, Earl, you are a unicorn here in Charlotte. They were like, one, you are a male, you're a Black male, and you're part of this community. In representation, you're gonna be fine. And they've been right. I've been full since I've opened. But yes, that is like a passion group for me, and just really like men and just Black women, just being that space and that representation of you can come to therapy and not have to teach. You can come and I can see you, we can talk and just have that healing space. And so,
and the good thing about teletherapy too is, especially for folks who are in a small community, ain't nobody gonna ride by and see you walking into the therapist's office, and that's a deterrent. You know what I mean? So ain't nobody got to know your business but you and your therapist. And so that's what we talk about all the time, especially in the Black community. We don't want to talk about mental health. We don't want to talk about mental illness. We don't want to talk about Alzheimer's. We don't want to talk about a lot of things that has stigma, or a lot of things that have stigma surrounding it. But when we don't talk about those things that have stigma, then we harm ourselves both emotionally, internally, physically. And so you definitely are. I was going to say that. So I'm glad your friend. So you are definitely a unicorn. But with unicorns, don't unicorns bring rainbows? They
do. They bring a lot of joy and all kind of good light.
So you look, a lot of joy, a lot of good light. So you brought us some joy. What, a couple of weeks ago with the affirmation cards? Did that just drop a couple of weeks ago? Tell us about that, Earl.
Last Monday.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about these affirmation cards for Black men. And I had to tell you, I'm still in the process of purchasing mine. I just got to hit the button. That's all. Tell us about the cards.
Yes, 26 affirmations for boys of color. So it is pretty much, it's a 2-set type of card. And so I was very intentional because I noticed in sessions with clients, I'm always talking about how are you talking to yourself? What is the fuel that is going at the start of your day? If you're talking negative to yourself or down on yourself, that is only inviting negative energy into your life, and it's not pouring into your worth. It's actually lowering it. And so I created the cards. Actually, it was at my full-time job. And like I always say, like, I feel like if you're tuning in with God and the universe, those ideas will come in. And I had a client who loved him to death, teenager, and I just noticed that we were just having like a down day, as we all do as humans. And I just thought like, oh, sometimes I just wish you could just carry like your therapist in your pocket, like that would just pour affirmation into
a
you.
pocket therapist. Oh,
Okay, a pocket therapist.
Look, y'all heard it here. Earl said pocket therapist. Now go ahead.
And so as I was walking out of work, I was sat in my car. You know, sometimes you just got to sit in your car. And as soon as I got in the car, I saw the deck. I literally like saw this very deck in my mind and was like, "Ooh, you always talking about affirmations." And the idea just flow of you could have a card that has an affirmation in it, and then at the bottom a self-affirmation. So yes, it's a twofold. I'm pouring into you, and now you take that affirmation that I poured into you, and now you use it in an I statement, and you're pouring into yourself. So you get an affirmation and you're creating a self-affirmation. And so the idea, I'm literally driving out of the parking lot, and the affirmations just start coming to me. And Lord, it's illegal, but I took my phone out as I'm driving. I'm writing. I'm writing because they're pouring and they're pouring. And I was very intentional about, I didn't want a deck of just standard, oh, you know, you're beautiful. Like I wanted some very intentional, thought-provoking, tapping into experiences of Black boys and Black men. So it was not just like a generic affirmation. I wanted something very custom and tailor-made that would fit the Black male experience. And it just birthed from there. It started in December. I was very intentional about when I would have it. I would wake up out of the middle of the night, an affirmation would come to me. Like I created all of them, and I tailored it to where it's 26 affirmations, but there's 30 cards in a deck. And so the last 4 are fill in the blank, where it is for that person to create their own affirmation for themselves after getting through it. And I also had the last 4 of the 26. I had Black men in my life. So my line brother, a cousin, close friends. I had people that inspired me. Create an affirmation of, if you were a Black boy, or if you needed to talk to your inner Black boy, because like I said, it's not just for boys, it's for adult men too, who need to connect with their inner child, as we all do.
That's right.
What message would you give them? If you needed to be in that shoe at that time, what would you want it to hear? And so they sent them in, and the deck was born and created. And
all right. Look,
yeah.
I love it. And I said I was gonna get me a deck for my love grandson. He is 6. So he can read.
Yeah. And it really is for all ages.
Okay.
And so I'll even like read one to you, which is my favorite. I actually, this is how the deck opens. And so one of my favorites that I created is that: brown boy, your skin is as radiant as the sun. It's charged with power, strength, and knowledge. Embrace all the magic that's knitted in your melanin. And then the self-affirmation under it for them to repeat to themselves is: melanin is knitted beauty in my skin.
Say that, Earl. I love it. So tell everybody how they can get their hands on the 26 affirmations.
Yes. So you can go to my website, which is www.earlmartinlcsw.com. And right under when you get on the website, there's a tab that says affirmation cards. There are 2 options. So the first option is to just buy a deck that I will mail to you. But the second option says donate a card to a Black boy or man. And with that donation option, you're paying for the deck. And what I will do is I identify a Black male, and I send that card to that male. And so under it, because some people have been buying the donation card and be like, oh, can you ship this to me? And I'm like, the donation is for me to send it to somebody. But it's okay. It's okay, because it can get confusing, but there is a little bit of space where if you want to provide a message that you want sent to that person, just whatever message to a Black boy, I will add that message to that donation deck when I give it to that person.
I love that. Giving back while you getting yours. How about that? So Earl, tell us your social media handles.
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram at Earl Martin LCSW. Also, my Facebook page is Earl Martin LCSW at Innate Virtue Counseling PLLC.
Thank you, Earl. We wish you all the best in your practice and in your authorship, because this is not going to be the first. And if there's anything that I can do or that we can do, you let us know. We're here for you.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy Social Work Month.
Happy Social Work Month.
Thank you, guys. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.